Let us begin with literary appreciation of prose. This is a very important topic in literature in English. It appears in your exams every single year. By the end of this lesson, you will understand how to appreciate a prose work, including plot structure, character development, setting, theme, style, point of view, and literary devices using a sample appreciation, and how to answer exam questions. Take your notes. Let us go. First, what is literary appreciation of prose? Literary appreciation is the ability to understand, analyze, and evaluate a work of prose fiction. It involves more than just reading the story. It involves thinking about how the writer uses language, structure, and literary devices to create meaning. Literary appreciation also involves forming a personal response to the work. You consider whether you liked it or not and why. Prose fiction includes novels, novellas, and short stories. To appreciate a prose work, you must examine its key elements. The major elements of prose are plot, character, setting, theme, point of view, and style. Let me explain how to appreciate plot. Plot is the sequence of events in a story. To appreciate plot, first identify the major events. What happens at the beginning? What happens in the middle? What happens at the end? Then identify the plot structure. Where is the exposition? Exposition is the beginning that introduces characters and setting. Where is the rising action? Rising action develops the conflict. Where is the climax? The climax is the turning point. Where is the falling action? Falling action shows the consequences. Where is the resolution? Resolution ends the story. Next, identify the conflict. What is the central struggle? Is it internal conflict within a character, or external conflict between characters, between a character and society, between a character and nature, or between a character and fate? Consider whether the plot is chronological or non-linear. A chronological plot tells events in time order. A non-linear plot uses flashbacks or flash-forwards. A good plot is well-structured, engaging, and meaningful. The events should follow logically. The conflict should be resolved in a satisfying way. Now let me explain how to appreciate character. Character refers to the people in the story. To appreciate character, first identify the major characters. Who is the protagonist? The protagonist is the main character. Who is the antagonist? The antagonist opposes the protagonist. Identify the minor characters. Minor characters support the main characters or move the plot forward. Next, determine whether characters are round or flat. Round characters are complex and multidimensional. They have many traits. They feel like real people. Flat characters are simple and one-dimensional. They have one or two traits. They are often minor characters. Determine whether characters are dynamic or static. Dynamic characters change during the story. They learn and grow. Static characters do not change. Look at how the author reveals character. Direct characterization tells the reader what the character is like. For example, he was a kind man. Indirect characterization shows the reader what the character is like through their actions, words, thoughts, appearance, and what others say about them. For example, if a character gives money to a beggar, the reader infers that he is kind. Indirect characterization is more subtle and realistic. Consider the character's motivations. Why do they act as they do? What do they want? What are their fears? Consider the character's development. How do they change from the beginning to the end? What causes the change? A well-developed character feels like a real person. The reader cares about what happens to them. Now let me explain how to appreciate setting. Setting is the time and place where the story occurs. To appreciate setting, first identify the physical setting. Where does the action take place? Is it a city, a village, a house, a forest? Identify the temporal setting. When does the action take place? Is it the past, present, or future? Is it a specific year or a general time period? Identify the social setting. What are the cultural, economic, and social conditions? What are the customs and values of the society? Identify the emotional setting or mood. What is the atmosphere? Is it happy, sad, fearful, peaceful? Next, consider the function of setting. How does the setting affect the plot? Does the setting create obstacles for the characters? How does the setting affect the characters? Does the setting shape their values and behavior? How does the setting affect the mood? A dark, stormy night creates fear. A bright, sunny day creates happiness. Can the setting be seen as symbolic? A prison might symbolize oppression. A garden might symbolize innocence. A well-chosen setting is not just a backdrop. It actively contributes to the meaning of the work. Now let me explain how to appreciate theme. Theme is the central idea or message of the work. To appreciate theme, first identify the subject of the work. What is the work about? Love, death, war, family, justice? Then look for patterns. What ideas are repeated? What symbols appear? How does the conflict resolve? What do the characters learn? What does the title suggest? State the theme as a general statement, not a summary of the plot. For example, a theme might be love requires sacrifice, or greed leads to destruction, or justice will prevail. A work can have multiple themes. Avoid stating the theme as a cliché. The theme should be specific to the work. A good theme is insightful. It reveals something true about human experience. Now let me explain how to appreciate point of view. Point of view is the perspective from which the story is told. First-person point of view uses I or we. The narrator is a character in the story. The reader sees everything through their eyes. First person is intimate and subjective. The reader feels close to the narrator, but the narrator can be unreliable. Second-person point of view uses you. This is rare. Third-person point of view uses he, she, it, or they. Third-person omniscient means the narrator knows everything. They can tell the reader what any character thinks or feels. Third-person limited means the narrator only knows the thoughts and feelings of one character. Third-person objective means the narrator only reports what can be seen and heard. The choice of point of view affects what the reader knows and how the reader feels about the characters. Now, let me explain how to appreciate style and language. Style is the way the writer uses language. To appreciate style, first look at diction, which is word choice. Are the words simple or complex? Are they formal or informal? Are they concrete or abstract? Does the writer use slang, dialect, or technical terms? Next, look at sentence structure. Are the sentences short or long? Are they simple or complex? Does the writer use fragments or run-ons? Sentence length and structure affect the rhythm and pace of the work. Short sentences create urgency. Long sentences create calmness. Look at figurative language. Does the writer use simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, or irony? What effects do these devices create? Look at imagery. Does the writer use sensory details? What senses are appealed to? Look at tone. What is the writer's attitude toward the subject or audience? Is the tone serious, humorous, sarcastic, hopeful, or despairing? The tone affects how the reader responds to the work. Now let me give you a sample appreciation of a prose passage. Let us use a passage from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Purple Hibiscus. The passage describes the Achike family home. Our house was silent. It was not the kind of silence that settles over a room when everyone is reading or thinking. It was the silence of a house whose people have learned to speak in whispers. It was the silence of a house where voices are lowered and laughter is swallowed. Father's presence filled every room. Even when he was not there, his rules were, we did not need to be told. We knew. Let me appreciate this passage. The passage is from the beginning of the novel. The narrator is Kambili, a 15-year-old girl. The point of view is first person. The reader sees the house through her eyes. The setting is the Achike family home in Enugu, Nigeria. The physical setting is a house, but the emotional setting is more important. The house is silent. The silence is not peaceful. It is oppressive. The silence comes from fear. The people speak in whispers. They swallow their laughter. Father's presence fills every room. Even when he is not there, his rules are, the characters are Kambili, her family, and the absent but powerful father. Eugene is not physically present in this passage, but he is present through his rules and his fear. The theme of the novel is introduced here. Domestic violence creates silence and fear. The home should be a place of safety. For Kambili, it is a place of fear. The language is simple but powerful. Adichie uses repetition. It was not the kind of silence. It was the silence. It was the silence emphasizes the quality of the silence. We did not need to be told. We knew emphasizes that the rules are internalized. The children do not need to be reminded. They have learned to be afraid. The imagery is auditory. The silence is described. The whispers are described. The swallowed laughter is described. The reader can hear the silence. The tone is sad and fearful. The reader feels Cambili's oppression. The passage is effective because it creates a vivid picture of life in an abusive home. The reader understands why Cambili is so quiet and afraid. Now let me explain how to write a literary appreciation essay. A literary appreciation essay is a formal analysis of a literary work. It has an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. The introduction should identify the title and author of the work. It should briefly summarize the work. It should state your thesis, which is your main argument about the work. The thesis could be about the theme, the characters, the style, or the effectiveness of the work. The body paragraphs should develop your thesis. Each paragraph should focus on one point. Start each paragraph with a topic sentence. Provide evidence from the text to support your point. Use quotations. Explain how the evidence supports your argument. The conclusion should summarize your main points. It should restate your thesis in different words. It should not introduce new ideas. A good literary essay is clear, well-organized, and supported by evidence. A common exam question asks you to appreciate the use of setting in a prose work. Here is a sample answer. Setting in Purple Hibiscus is central to the novel's meaning. The Achike family home in Enugu is silent and oppressive. The house represents Eugene's control. The silence is not peaceful. It is the silence of fear. In contrast, Auntie Ifeoma's house in Nsukka is noisy and free. The laughter and argument represent freedom. The contrast between the two settings highlights the theme of freedom versus oppression. Cambili learns to laugh in Nsukka. She learns to speak. The setting is not just a backdrop. It actively shapes the characters and their development. Another exam question asks you to analyze the use of point of view in a prose work. Here is your answer. In Purple Hibiscus, Adichie uses first-person point of view. The narrator is Cambili. The reader sees everything through her eyes. The reader knows only what Cambili knows. This point of view creates intimacy. The reader feels close to Cambili. The reader suffers with her. The reader rejoices with her. But the point of view is also limited. The reader does not know what other characters are thinking. The reader does not know what happens when Cambili is not present. This limitation is effective. It keeps the reader focused on Cambili's experience. It also creates mystery. The reader must interpret the actions of other characters without knowing their thoughts. Another exam question asks you to appreciate the use of language in a prose passage. Here is your answer. In the passage describing the Achike family home, Adichie uses simple but powerful language. She repeats the word silence to emphasize the oppressive atmosphere. She uses the phrase speak in whispers and swallowed laughter to show how fear has silenced the family. She writes, "Father's presence filled every room, even when he is not there." This shows that his abuse has been internalized. The children do not need to be told. They know. The language is effective because it creates a vivid picture of life in an abusive home. The reader understands Cambili's fear without being told directly. Here is what you need to take away. Literary appreciation of prose involves analyzing plot, character, setting, theme, point of view, and style. Plot includes structure and conflict. Character includes protagonist, antagonist, round and flat characters, dynamic and static characters, and methods of characterization. Setting includes physical, temporal, social, and emotional elements. Theme is the central message. Point of view affects what the reader knows. Style includes diction, sentence structure, figurative language, imagery, and tone. Writing a literary appreciation essay requires an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Evidence from the text must support your analysis. Practice these concepts. When you have them down, move to topic 6.